Ajnanitimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshunamilitan Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaye Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Pravajantam Manapeta Apeta Krityam Rapaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tan Maitaya Taravo Binedus Tam Sarvabhutam Hridayam Munimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Bhaktya Vihina Parada Lakshay Kiptascha Kamari Tarangamadye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanara Vindam Tave Vasmi Najivami Tvayavina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayanam Charanandike Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So we are going to begin or continue the beautiful Madhurya Kadambini by offering our most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved Gurus. And Sri Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pada Sta Tarsat Sri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada and Sri Guru Pada Padma Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pada Sta Tarsat Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, unto our exalted Rupanuga Varga, all the assembled Vaisnavas and Vaishnavis. Okay, so now we're on still the fifth group of verses, number C, or letter C. And we heard about the holy name withholding its benefits because of aparad, right? And yet, holy name is so complete, so merciful, so kind. If we could just give up aparad, look deep into our hearts, and then realize that if there's any obstacle at all to our chanting and to our bhakti, it's because of aparad committed recently or even long back. And we have to be very humble and contrite about that. Seek the mercy of our gurus, of our Guru Varga, of Sri Nam himself, to please let us overcome these obstacles and come to understand that Sri Nam and Nami, Krishna Roop, Krishna Sarup, non-different. I was listening again to chapter 23 of Jaiva Dharma, where all the, not all, there's so many, but principal verses citing the glories of the holy name, the tattva of the holy name. Very helpful. Hear this over and over and over and let it sink in. Hammer away at the hard heart, the iron encased heart, to help us establish appropriate faith, reverence, and love for Sri Nam. So, now Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur will say, a wealthy master who is capable of bestowing punishment or favor does not support an impertinent servant. Rather, he remains indifferent to him. Due to this indifference, the offender gradually experiences sorrow, poverty, wretchedness, and lamentation. At the same time, a master will never maintain or punish a person with whom he has no connection. If the offending servant again behaves in a way that is favorable to the master in an effort to please him, then the master will show him benevolence, and the servant's unhappiness and poverty will gradually vanish. Sometimes it's difficult for us to understand this kind of example because we don't live in a culture like this, where these different gradations of relationships, right? But in this case, a master, like a Vaishya, Zamindar, and then there's someone who's dependent on them, for service, by being given some service, they maintain themselves, they eat, they have shelter, even maintain their family. But if if they're not good and they're impertinent, disrespectful, then the master will neglect them, not employ them. He won't be involved in granting them favors. He won't be involved in punishing them. Just neglect. And then the person's on their own. And so what will happen? Sorrow, poverty, wretchedness, lamentation. Without a master, what can they do? Where will they go? How will they eat? What shelter will they have? They're not qualified for another post. But the master then becomes neutral, right? Neither offering favor nor showing benevolence. And then that person is cast into the world uncared for, unsupported, and then they suffer. So he goes on to say, in the same manner, when an offender to the holy name performs non-duplicitous, uninterrupted service to the devotees of Bhagavan, the scriptures, and the spiritual master, then by the mercy of the holy name, his anarthas in the form of offenses are gradually destroyed. This is undeniable. So service mood, right, in three ways, right? To the spiritual master, right, the scriptures, and the devotees of Bhagavan. If we're not cultivating that mood of love and affection and service for the devotees of Bhagavan, still that mercy will not be there. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, all the acharyas that I've read always counseled that, to cultivate that mood of Vaishnava Seva, right? Because this is very pleasing to Sri Guru to see the opening of the heart like that service mentality to Bhagavan and those things that belong to Bhagavan, the Vaishnavas. And even if you're doing all kinds of chanting and other services, even trying to serve Guru directly, if you're neglecting or disrespectful for the Vaishnavas, you still won't make progress, right? So, a person may say, he goes on, I have not committed Nama Prabhu, but it must be said that it is only after seeing the result that the cause can be deduced. The result of Nama Prabhu is that the symptoms of prem do not awaken, even after so much chanting of the holy name. The cause, therefore, must be an offense committed either recently or long ago. Right? If you're not experiencing these transformations, this softening of the heart, right, then it's because of offenses. That's it. There's no getting around it. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, 3rd chapter, 24th verse explains. Tadasma saram hridayam bhatedam yagriyamanayar harinama deyai navri kriyetata yada vikaro netre jalam gataruheshu harsha. Despite profusely chanting the holy name of Sri Hari, that person who does not experience ecstatic transformations such as a melting heart, tears and horripilation, must have a heart that is hard like iron. So this is in the third chapter. Srila Prabhupada called it Pure Devotional Service, the Change of the Heart. So Shukadev Goswami is responding to various inquiries of Maharaj Pariksit previously. He said, "You've inquired from me as to the duty of the intelligent man who is on the threshold of death, so I have answered you." Right? So that verse 24, let's get to that. See, just before that, he explains that all the different misfortune, like the eyes who don't look at the deity form of the Lord, right, are like those eyes printed on the plumes of a peacock. Useless eyes, right? Legs do not go to the holy places, are like trunks of trees, right? Person who's not at any time received the dust of the feet of the Lord's pure devotee upon his head is certainly a dead body. And the person who has never experienced the aroma of tulsi leaves from the lotus feet of the Lord is also a dead body, although breathing. And then, this verse, certainly that heart is steel framed, which in spite of one's chanting the holy name of the Lord with concentration does not change when ecstasy takes place. Tears fill the eyes and the hairs stand on end. And that at the end of the chapter he says that the sages are now speaking to Sutta Goswami. Your words are pleasing to our minds. Please therefore explain to us, as it was spoken by the great devotee Shukadev Goswami, who was very expert in transcendental knowledge, and who spoke to Maharaj Pariksit upon being asked. So what does Srila Prabhupada say about that? He says, that heart is still framed, which in spite of once chanting the holy name of the Lord with concentration does not change when ecstasy takes place. Tears fill the eyes and the hairs stand on end. How could that happen if you have not experienced love of God, right? Well, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains in Bhakti Tattva Vivek and in Jaiva Dharma, these are shadow symptoms, even reflective symptoms, pratibimba, right? Even a Mayavad can experience these things if in having had the association of pure devotee, but not change their inclination or their conception, still the power of the holy name is so strong, and they think, oh, simply by this chanting of the holy name alone, I will achieve my desired destination very, very easily. And so they become ecstatic. But it's a reflection. It's not based on love of God. It's based on the happiness of that they may receive their own personal selfish goal, right? So, let's see. He begins in his purport by kind of giving a overview of the previous few chapters. Then he says, the whole process of spiritual culture, Srila Prabhupada speaking, is aimed at changing the heart of the living being in the matter of his eternal relation with the Supreme Lord as subordinate servant, which is his eternal constitutional position, right? Which is very good because this verse by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur uses the example of a master and a servant. So changing the heart, awakening it and embracing the idea that we are a servant, understanding that glorious position, right? Not like in the material world where everything is upside down. The position of servant is unfortunate, debased, a lower rung of society, right? So With the progress of devotional service, the reaction of change in the heart is exhibited by gradual detachment from the sense of material enjoyment, by a false sense of lording it over the world, and an increase in the attitude of rendering loving service to the Lord. Gradual detachment, accompanied, though, not just plain detachment, increasing attachment to the service of the Lord. Vidhi bhakti, or regulated devotional service by the limbs of the body, namely the eyes, ears, nose, hands, and legs, as already explained, is now stressed herein in relation to the mind, which is the impetus for all activities of the limbs of the body. It is expected by all means that by discharging regulative devotional service, one must manifest the change of heart. If there is no such change, the heart must be considered steel-framed, for it is not melted, even when there is chanting of the holy name of the Lord. We must always remember that hearing and chanting are the basic principles of discharging devotional duties. And if they are properly performed, there will follow the reactional ecstasy, with the signs of tears in the eyes and standing of the hairs of the body. These are natural consequences and are the preliminary symptoms of the bhava stage, which occurs before one reaches the perfectional stage of prema, love of Godhead. If the reaction does not take place, even after continuous hearing and chanting of the holy name of the Lord, it may be considered to be due to offenses only. That is the opinion of the Sandarbha, right? He's quoting Jiva Goswami there. In the beginning of chanting of the holy name of the Lord, if the devotee has not been very careful about evading the 10 kinds of offenses at the feet of the holy name, certainly the reaction of feelings of separation will not be visible by tears in the eyes and the standing of hairs on end. And then he goes on. See, Srila Prabhupada was giving all of this. When he gave the second canto, though, we didn't have any knowledge at all. And this was all very difficult to absorb and actually collate, put it in all order. So all these different terms even. What do we know about these symptoms? What do you know about bhava? Even the offenses. It was all so new. He said the bhava stage is manifested by 8 transcendental symptoms, namely inertness, perspiration, standing of hairs on end, failing in the voice, trembling, paleness of the body, tears in the eyes, and finally, trance. The Nectar of Devotion, a summary study of Sri Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, explains those symptoms and vividly describes other transcendental developments, both in steady and accelerating manifestations. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, right, don't read the books of these acharyas. No, Srila Prabhupada's quoting them. He's opening the door to us. If you want to know more, right, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has very critically discussed all these bhava displays in connection with some unscrupulous neophytes imitating the above symptoms for cheap appreciation. Not only Vishwanath Chakravarti, but also Srila Rupa Goswami treated them very critically. Sometimes all the above 8 symptoms of ecstasy are imitated by the mundane devotees, the prakrita sahajas, but the pseudo-symptoms are at once detected when one sees the pseudo-devotee addicted to so many forbidden things. Even though decorated with the signs of a devotee, a person addicted to smoking, drinking, or illegitimate sex with women cannot have all the above-mentioned ecstatic symptoms. But it is seen that sometimes those symptoms are willfully imitated. And for this reason, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur accuses the imitators of being stone-hearted men. They are sometimes even affected by the reflection of such transcendental symptoms. That's pratibimba, abbas. Yet if they still do not give up the forbidden habits, then they are hopeless cases for transcendental realization. This is a very long purport, but he's going to continue on, and he's going to quote and give many of the things that are going to come up in this explanation by Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj. It's amazing. It's amazing. So it's a very long purport, very beautiful. Anyway, so let's continue here. Srila Narayan Maharaj says, as previously stated, aparad is known as that which drives away radha or satisfaction. It can also mean affection, right? The holy name becomes displeased with an aparadi, and it is seen that as a consequence, the aparadi does not receive the fruit of uttering the holy name. Srila Vaisnavas Chakravarti Thakur illustrates this in a simple way so that we can understand it easily. A master remains indifferent to a misbehaving servant and does not maintain him, even though he is capable of doing so. As a result, the servant becomes despondent. Similarly, Nama Prabhu becomes indifferent to an offender and does not reveal his mercy or his great potency to him. As a result, such a person is beset with various types of anarthas. On seeing the offender miserable and destitute, it would be incorrect for us to assume that his wealthy master is incapable of maintaining one of his very own, his servant. He is capable of doing so, but chooses not to, being displeased with him. Nonetheless, because this person is one of the master's dependents, the wealthy master will still protect him and never abandon him in exchange for an outsider. If somehow the culprit realizes that he has made an offense and understanding his master's mind proceeds to serve him in an endeavor to please him, then the master, who by nature is compassionate, will gradually relieve the servant of his misery and destitution. So the master always is aware of that servant and just waiting for him to reform his wicked ways, so to speak. And as soon as he makes that attempt, again, he comes under the direct shelter. The master will no longer neglect, but give him help, relieve him of his misery and destitution. In other words, bring him back in the fold of bhakti, allow him back in, right? And the master will allow them back in the house, or back in the stables, or back in the fields, wherever it was they were serving, and along with that, shelter, food, clothing, and protection, right? But if you neglect the master, then you're out on your own. Like the story of the prodigal son. The man had 3 sons. 2 were obedient, 1 was a ne'er-do-well, and he gambled and spent all the father's money inappropriately, cheated, and finally he got into such a mess, he thought he couldn't go back, and he just went wandering. And he wandered for a long time and experienced all kinds of travails and miseries, even enslavement at one point. Had to sell himself like that, just to live. Whereas previously he'd been so happy and taking care of his father, but he was disobedient. Taken care of by his father, but he was disobedient and a rascal. And he thought he could never go back. And then one day in a distant land, a friend of the father, a neighbor, was in that area and he saw this boy who he recognized. He said, "Oh, what are you doing here? Why aren't you with the father?" And, "Oh, well, I've done this, I've done that, But look at you. You're half starved. You have rags for clothes. You have no shoes. You have nothing. Don't know when your next meal will come. Why don't you go back to your father?" "Oh, how can I go back? I've done so many bad things." "No, he's always thinking of you. He wishes you would come back and be an obedient, dutiful son like the others and reclaim your position." And he says, "Really? Yes, go back, go back." And he goes back. And when the father sees him and sees that now he's remorseful and doesn't want to resume those wicked ways, he's so happy. And then the story goes on, and the two other brothers are saying, "Why are you so joyful to see him?" "Oh, because he's the prodigal, he's the wanderer. It gives me a special kind of joy that one who rejected me is now coming back." Right? You, of course, I've always loved you, you've always loved me. Our relationship is beautiful and wonderful. You're my sons. But the fact that he left for so long, I never gave up my love for him, and now he's come back. It's a special joy. So Krishna gets a special joy out of bringing us, the reluctant, recalcitrant, sons and daughters, back to him. Right? That's why he has this leela of deliverance. It's part of his pastimes. So if the culprit realizes that he has made an offense and understanding his master's mind proceeds to serve him and endeavor to please him, then the master, who by nature is compassionate, will gradually relieve the servant of his misery and destitution. Similarly, Sri Nama Prabhu, who is most competent to bestow grace, forever nourishes one who takes his shelter by bestowing prem upon him. This refers to one who takes shelter of the path of bhakti and engages in the activities of bhajan headed by Nam Kirtan. There's a question in the Jaiva Dharma when the glories of Harinam are described what one should constantly chant, right? Not just regulated rounds, but throughout the day, whatever one's doing. And then, I forget if it's Brajanath or Vijay Kumar who says, well, if you're chanting all day long, where's the time for the other limbs of bhakti? And then Babaji Maharaj, Raghunath Babaji Maharaj explains, well, out of those 64 limbs of bhakti, which had been described previously, they're all contained in the 9 limbs. And of those 9 limbs, they're all contained in the first 3 limbs, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. And of those 3 limbs, the most complete and of all, and which satisfies all other services, is kirtan. When one chants kirtan properly, smaran automatically comes. And of course, one's hearing and everything else is empowered by that kind of kirtan. So, one who takes shelter of the path of bhakti and engages in the activities of bhajan headed by Nam Kirtan, right? That person is competent, is eligible to receive the grace and to be nourished by the shelter of Sri Nama Prabhu. But if a person who has taken shelter of the holy name commits nama parad, then the holy name will become dissatisfied with the offender and withdraw his nourishment. We're not getting that taste because of aparad. Maybe not now, but previously. So what do we do now? We just have to chant with the prayer to be absolved from this aparad. So, in other words, the holy name will not bestow upon him the fruit of bhajan, prem. One should therefore never think that Sri Harinam is incompetent to deliver the result. Even though the offender has not received the result of bhajan, he is still Sri Nama Prabhu's object of protection and nourishment. Sri Nama Prabhu maintains only those who have taken shelter of him, not those who choose not to. In other words, not those who do not perform bhajan. So if we're, the thing is, some people, they don't get the result because of previous aparad, and then they give it up. They give up the process of bhajan. Oh, I'm not getting anything out of this. This is all bogus. And they leave. Right? It happens. But why that happens, you have to understand the root cause of why we're not getting that prem. But if you continue chanting, he's saying, continue your bhajan, continue serving Hari, Guru, and Vaisnavas, right? Even though you may be afflicted by offense, Sri Nam still looks favorably upon you, right? And will help, right? Maintain. And if your mood is sincere, then gradually that aparad will be lifted, right? He won't cast you out. When an offender understands his failing or blunder, and as a result, continuously performs service without duplicity in an endeavor to please the devotee, the scripture, or the spiritual master he has offended, devotees, spiritual master, and the scripture. Oh my God, when I think of that, this ongoing outrage over the fact that Srila Prabhupada's books were so changed, right, against his order. That's a big offense to scripture. And I think of the devotees involved and think of all the years when they did so much service, right? And had so much affectionate dealings with Srila Prabhupada. Now what must be going on with them? How dried up they must be, right? It's, even if they're continuing to go through the motions of bhakti, they're not getting what bhakti is meant to deliver. Because they're not understanding the blunder. They're doubling down on it. And those who support that blunder, they're equally accountable, right? Like a conspiracy, right? In conspiracy, everyone who's involved is equally culpable. So, when an offender understands his failing or blunder, and as a result continuously performs service without duplicity in an endeavor to please the devotee, scripture, or spiritual master he has offended, then Nama Prabhu will gradually become pleased with him, destroy his Nam aparad, and confer upon him the fruit of prem. This is incontestable. You have to awaken, recognize, oh, I've done this, and then pray to fix it, right? In his Sarita Darshini commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, second chapter, those verses 9 and 10, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states, Sadhu Sangavasat Sava Nama Aparada Shahe to Bhakti Devi Samyak Prasadena Nama Pala Praptir Eva Nirvivada. This, I looked up that commentary. It's translated by my godbrother Banu Swami. I thought, we'll read that today. But it's so long. I couldn't even read Srila Prabhupada's full commentary on that one verse. Maybe sometime we'll read this commentary. Those two chapters are so important, so powerful. So anyway, this is when formerly the Yamadutas are saying, why have you done this? This is inappropriate, stopping us. And the Vishnudutas had explained, no, he chanted the holy name, right? Even if not purely, he chanted without offense. And then they go on to describe all the benefits of that and the reasons why and everything else. All that tattva is in those two verses. And in the commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, where he expands their conversation for us and explains it all. So this means that hearing Harikatha in the association of sadhus dissipates all types of offenses to Harinam. One then receives the complete mercy of Bhakti Devi and consequently attains prem, which is the result of uttering the holy name. In this matter, there is no room for dispute. Right. And chanting the holy name properly is so important. I just saw this little post, and it was about a kirtan. I think it was in Australia. And they're chanting, but they have a rock band. And it's famous in Australia. And it's not hardcore heavy metal rock. It's more folky kind, And they're singing away, playing their guitars. And everybody in the audience is dancing. But it's not the kind of dancing that Prabhupada did. It's more the gyrating kind of dancing, And there's different people with mics singing, and one person, and hardly any of them have any devotee clothes on, which in and of itself is not bad. But it just means that most of these people are living outside and exposed to a lot of material stuff all the time, right? And so they're obviously, many of them are old devotees, and they're happy to be there chanting. But there's a mood in the chanting. And you can tell that a lot of it, they're just enjoying the music, the way it's played, the guitars and all that. It speaks to previous samskars, really, right? And the way they're dancing and celebrating. And even I saw one woman dressed kind of like a hippie with the mic and just, doing like rock stars do with the mic, holding it up and bending back and all these, kind of postures and poses. And I was thinking, okay. I'm not trying to be critical or condemning, but I'm definitely looking at it and feeling the difference between that and the kirtan of Dhamvasis, right? When you go throughout Vrindavan and see these people just sitting in a little temple somewhere all day long, day after day, no audience, no nothing, just chanting together, authentic tunes, and you have to say, authentic emotion, whether it's in Vrindavan or Navadvip or Orissa, very different style, right? The other, probably not committing so much offense, but the taste is it's mixed, right? And therefore, the nature of the attentiveness and the nature of the motive, would they chant like that if there were no such kind of music accompanying it? Could they sit down to simple kirtan? That's where, you have to tell. I'll listen to old records of the old roadshow. Lord Chaitanya's moon is rising. And it will invoke memories and sentiments of the simple feelings we had about the holy name in those days, right? It was nice. But it was without realization, but still something was there. So I understand that. But the association of sadhus, hearing their Harikatha, hearing their chanting, how they do it, listening to Srila Prabhupada's recordings, how he chanted. So hearing Harikatha in the association of sadhus, right, dissipates all types of offenses to Harinam. It's good that these are all Kanishta devotees, Maybe someone's in Madhyam, but, it's not going to have the same result as serious kirtan in the association of sadhus, which will dissipate all types of offenses to Harinam. The effect of hearing Srila Prabhupada chant live, if you can remember that, or Srila Gurudev how that makes your heart feel, as opposed to chanting with guitars and everything else, how that makes your heart feel. Um, and, it may be somebody using a guitar has genuine feelings, and they're using that to bring others in. But I'm just saying in general. One then receives, after being with sadhus, the complete mercy of Bhakti Devi, and consequently attains prema, which is the result of uttering the holy name. In this matter, there is no room for dispute. One may ask, I have not committed any offense, so why am I not experiencing the result of the holy name? Yeah, the answer is that the cause of an effect can be deduced by examining the effect itself. Other than aparad, no impediment can hinder one's attaining the fruit of the all-powerful names of Sri Hari. Right, when you're in namabhas, not committing offense, not committing aparad, then your progress is guaranteed. Nothing will hinder that. It's just time, continuous chanting with sincerity and intent, right? Therefore, if a person does not experience the results of the holy name, he is to understand that he must have committed aparad. This should not be doubted even slightly. If someone does not experience the fruit of the holy name and did not intentionally commit any offense, he is to understand that he must have unintentionally committed an offense, agyata aparad. That's why we have to be studious and know the aparads and know our etiquette, know what's favorable, know what's unfavorable. A person may engage in much Nam Sankirtan, but if he does not manifest the signs of prema or symptoms of spiritual ecstasy, sattvika vikar, it is to be understood that he has not attained the fruit of chanting. Srimad Bhagavatam states, and this is the verse that we read that Srila Prabhupada commented on, Tad asma saram hridayam batedam yagriyamanayar harinama jayai navrikayay tata jadavikaro netre jalam gaturaheshu harsha. A heart that does not melt, despite hearing and chanting the all-auspicious name of Bhagavan, is made of iron. When the heart melts, tears flow from the eyes, and all the hairs on the body stand on end. Srila Vishwanath, so you might ask, is it wrong to want that? No, it's not wrong to want that. This is not considered anya bilash. Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes that in Jaiva Dharma. When Raghunath Das Babaji Maharaj is describing what's favorable, unfavorable, he says that desiring this Paramananda is not unfavorable. It is not an obstacle to bhakti. Because Paramananda includes the mood of selfless, loving service, right? And so it's okay, right? I want that. I don't want the pleasures of the material world. And what is Paramananda? It's the joy of making Krishna happy. That's prema. It's not individual selfish happiness. The joy comes from knowing that I've made Krishna and his servants happy. I'm the servant of the servant of the servant. His maidservants, his mother and father, his cowherd boyfriends. I've done something to assist them to make Krishna happy. That's Paramananda. So, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes in his Sarita Darshini commentary on this verse that if a person does not experience bhakti transforming his heart, even after continually chanting Harinam, then his heart is extremely hard, like iron. In other words, despite a person's constant chanting of the holy name, external transformations do not manifest, such as tears flowing from his eyes or horripilation, and his heart does not melt. All such signs of not having that are indicative of Nama Prabhu. But mere tears and horripilation may not be indicative of a melted heart either. Bhakti Samrita Sindhu states that tears, horripilation, and so on can also be seen to manifest in those who are wily, you know, wily coyote, right? Clever, deceptive, right? And adept at exhibiting these symptoms. Srila Prabhupada said the same thing. Even though they do not possess a semblance of ecstasy, they may present themselves as humble and experiencing these things. On the other hand, although the heart of a great realized soul, these souls who are naturally grave, melts when they chant Harinam, they may not be seen to suddenly display tears and horripilation. Therefore, from this verse, it is to be understood that if the heart does not actually melt upon uttering Harinam, it is as hard as iron, even if external transformations such as tears and horripilation are visible. Actually melt. And melting means what? Being flooded with the desire to serve Hari, Guru, and Vaisnavas. To be flooded with the symptoms of bhava, which we'll hear. When a devotee's heart melts with devotional sentiment, bhakti bhava, and external symptoms manifest, such as the shedding of tears and horripilation, it is called sattvika vikara, ecstatic transformation. These are the ordinary symptoms of a transformation of heart. However, there are other extraordinary symptoms. Okay. 1. Forbearance, shanti. 2. Effective use of one's time, avyarta kalatva. 3. Indifference to the allurements of this world, virakti. 4. Absence of pride, mana shunyata. 5. A steadfast conviction that Krishna will surely bestow his mercy, asha bandha, right? Bound by hope, right? Srila Prabhupada sometimes called it hope against hope. It seems, how is it possible? But I have strong faith. It will happen if I do my part. Krishna is so merciful. 6. Intense longing to obtain one's goal, samutkanta. 7. An unceasing relish for chanting the holy name, Nama Sadaruchi. 8. Attachment to hearing narrations of Bhagavan's qualities, Asaktis Tad Gunakyane. And 9. Attraction to the places where Bhagavan resides, Pritistad Vasati Stale. These 9 symptoms are the genuine signs of a melted heart. And as soon as devotees who are devoid of aparad engage in Nam Sankirtan, they realize the power of the holy name within their heart and become immersed in relishing Sri Nam. This experience results in their heart completely melting, which gives rise to the above-mentioned 9 symptoms. Right? So those 9 symptoms, they are, let's see, where are we here? They are, from this verse from Bhakti Samrita Sindhu, which is also quoted in the 23rd chapter of Madhya Lila, verses 18 through 19. Shantir avyarta kaladvam, viraktir manashunyata, ashabandha samutkanta, nama gane sadaruchi, asaktis tad kunakyane, pritis tad vasatis tale, iti adayo nubhava sur, jata bhavan kore jane. It's, and then what we already heard, there's a description, a more elaborate description of all of them also. But we want to finish this last paragraph, those who are offensive and jealous of the prosperity of others may utter the holy name a lot, but because the name is displeased with them, their heart does not melt with devotional sentiment. Even though they may exhibit external symptoms such as tears and horripilation, their heart is actually hard like iron. Therefore, this verse reproaches them. However, the heart of such people can be melted, and the hardness removed by the power of receiving the association of saints who inspire them to perpetually chant the holy name. So he says, not offensive and not jealous of the prosperity of others, right? Because if you do, then the holy name will become pleased. And that, think about that. That means, you know how Srila Narayan Maharaj always says over and over, don't criticize, don't criticize. And where do we criticize the most? We'll criticize other devotees who we think are not up to the standard, right? Or who are not in our group. Or they may be doing service, but they're also doing nonsense, it looks like. And yet, sometimes we see devotees who may have those mixed qualities. Externally, they're very successful. And they're attracting many people, and people are giving big donations, and they're building big temples and facilities. And we may get jealous of that and criticize. Yeah, but why bother with that? The best thing is to appreciate wherever bhakti manifests to whatever degree. And if there's a fault, if there's offense, we're not the judges there. Guru is the judge. Mahaprabhu is the judge. Radha Krishna the judge. Sri Nama Prabhu himself is the judge. Not us. We don't have eyes to see. You know, and it may be that some people are favorable and not favorable to associate with. That we can choose, but don't criticize. Don't criticize. What's the point, right? Focus on one's own defects, and then we're in a position where we can grow and we can generally help others. And if people want our help and association, that's good. And if they don't, all right, no harm. This big world, so many places to serve, so many devotees to serve. Just be happy in whatever facility and opportunity Sri Nama Prabhu gives us. Right, so getting very detailed, very important instruction here. So we'll stop at this point and offer very grateful obeisance to Srila Prabhupada, to Srila Gurudev, to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, our Guru Varga, and, pray sincerely to detect whatever offenses are invading and obscuring our bhakti, and pray that this mood of service to Vaisnavas, to Scripture, to Guru, to Sri Nam, awakens strongly in our heart, completely devoid of any desire to criticize or offend others, right? Amanina manadena, right? Tanadapi sunichena, tarodapi suhishtana. All of those qualities. Okay. So, Gaur Premanande. Haribol, Haribol.